Good to go. All right. All praise to the Most High God and happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath. Good to see everybody today. For those online, all praise to the Most High for that. Let's go ahead before we get started with the class. Let's get the reading of the law. Today's reading of the law, we're going to go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Constantly set thy heart aright, and constantly endure. And make not haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him. Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins and saveth in time of affliction. Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and a sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience. And what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. They that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men.
All praises to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the reading of the law. Let's get Revelation 14 and 12.
Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
That's the doctrine of Israel, to keep the commandments of God and the faith of Christ. Okay, so today we got another feast day coming up called Destruction of Nicanor. That's what we're going to talk about today, the destruction of Nicanor. So for today's title, write this: the destruction of Nicanor and the need for the temple. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. All praises once again to the Most High God. Let's go ahead and get into it with First Maccabees chapter 1. Let me get there real quick. On First Maccabees chapter 1. Let's start at verse 1.
Book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over
So
Greece.
this is the beginning of the reign of Alexander. To say some call him Alexander the Great. If you ever heard of that. So Alexander was the first king of Rome. Go ahead.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up.
So he had the entire earth in submission. This is Alexander. Yeah, yeah. He had the whole earth in submission. He ruled. He overthrew kings. Okay, go ahead. Me,
He gathered a mighty
me
strong
too.
host and ruled over countries and nations, and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die.
So after years of rulership, eventually he died. Right, passed on. Okay, go ahead.
Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
So y'all remember we talked about a couple of weeks ago how Rome was split up. Let's talk about this. This is when what happened. This is talking about that. So this is doing the Roman kingdom. Okay, go to. Hold on, real quick. First, before we go there, let's get First Maccabees. Let's stay where we at. Go to verse 10. Before we go there, let's just go to verse 7. I mean, yeah, verse 7.
First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Ephenius, son of Antiochus, the king who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
So after Alexander died, his servants parted the themselves. It was by his rule though. So they parted the king. They parted Rome. Okay, Rome split into different into many kingdoms. Go to Daniel chapter 7.
Mic check.
Mic check. Daniel chapter 7, verse 23.
Mic check, mic check. We should be back. Mic check. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check, mic check.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are the 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
So remember how I was saying that the kingdom was split up, 10 kingdoms. Antiochus was that last that came out of to come out of them. Okay, this is the Roman Empire. It's the rise of the Roman Empire. Okay, Antiochus is the king. He said he gonna tread the whole earth. He read on verse 25. This one.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
So he's going to hate the Most High. Okay, he's going to speak great words against the Most High. Go ahead.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
And when we say wear out the saints of the Most High, that means he's going to torment God's people. Okay, read on.
And think to change times and laws.
He's gonna change times and laws, and that's what I'm gonna show y'all here in Maccabees. He's going to change laws. He's going to prevent the children of Israel, God's people, from doing his will. Finish that off.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
There you go. So they're going to be given to his hand. I mean, he's going to have control. Go back to 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11.
First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
So during the time of King Antiochus, there went Israelites who were wicked and who had wicked hearts, who decided that they want to do the will of the Gentiles. They wanted to live like the Gentiles because they had lost faith in God. Okay? Read on.
So this device pleased them well. Then certain other people were so forward herein that they went to the king who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
So why do y'all think that Antiochus gave them the license to do after as they had requested of the king? Go to Hosea chapter 5 and get verse 15 for me. Always remember, y'all, whenever it's always about Israel, okay? It's always to bring Israel to repentance. It's always to bring Israel down. These people, they know who God's people are. Antiochus knew who he was dealing with. Read on, Hosea 5 and 15.
Hosea chapter 5, verse 15. I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early.
So Antiochus knew whenever Israel sinned against God, he no longer dealt with us. Okay, Antiochus knew that. That's why he gave them license to do that. It creates a distance, a disconnection between us and God, which gives our enemies power over us. So it would please him for Israelites to come to him asking to be as him against God. First Maccabees 1:14.
First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the
Now
heathen.
y'all know Jerusalem is the holy city, right? So the wicked Israelites built a place to worship in Jerusalem. So they defiling the temple. They defiling God's home because God said Jerusalem, that's his city. Jerusalem, if y'all don't know, Jerusalem is where we always went for the biggest feast days, Passover. It was against the big three. Or is it big three or four? Those big three. Israel from all over Israel, Bethlehem, all over, they would travel to Jerusalem to celebrate those feast days because that's God's holy city. So this is happening right there. The wicked Israelites are building a place of worship to idols in God's home, in God's land, God's chosen city. I put a smile on the heathen's face. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
So when they joined themselves to heathen, they was when they say sold to do mischief, that means they all in. They loving this. But when they say they made themselves uncircumcised, what y'all think that means? It means that over time, they lost understanding. They no longer had understanding of God's law anymore. Because generations would go by. This happened for years. This wasn't no 2-year, 3-year, 4-year. This was like decades. They lost that connection with God. Okay? So in losing that connection, defiling that temple, which I'm gonna get into. I'm gonna show y'all what that goes into. Jump down to verse 21. So
First
we lost our
Maccabees
connection.
chapter 1, verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof.
So let me get you up to speed. What us defiling the temple, that made us vulnerable, right? There's no God to protect us. He ain't dealing with us no more. So at this point, Antiochus, he like, okay, strike while the iron is hot. It's time. Then so what you see him doing here is he's going to the temples. He turned down the altars. He's turning up God's stuff. He breaking it down. Read that again for me, 21.
Verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary.
Look at that word proudly, meaning boastful, high-minded. He knew he got us. Go ahead.
And took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
So he in there just desecrating our temple. Go ahead.
He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels, and he took the hidden treasures which he found.
Took our treasures. Go ahead.
And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly.
He done to subdue God's people. Go ahead.
Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were.
Because y'all understand, there were still righteous Israelites. It was the kingdom was divided. There were righteous Israelites who was pissed off about this. They want it was you had the ones who wanted to serve to do the will of Gentiles, and then there were ones who was like, nah, we're gonna continue to serve our God. But we're gonna get more into that. Keep going, Ak.
Verse 26. So that the princes and elders mourned the virgins, and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of woman was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with
See
confusion.
that remember, God is not the author of confusion, is he? So they was lost. They was what's that word I'm looking for? Oppressed. And when it said the beauty of the woman changed over time, our people started. We lost our customs, fringes, no fringes. The women changed. It's like it is today. It was like it is today. Everybody was just all over the place. There was confusion throughout the land of Israel. Go ahead.
And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them.
Do y'all know who that is? The king, after he did all this, the king sent somebody for the tribute. That's the tax collector. So now you want to start taxing them. I know taxing is a very oppressing thing. They take all your money out the check. And they make you pay taxes that you don't even make any sense to us. But read on out.
And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the woman and children took they captive and possessed the cattle.
So they killed the men. They killed the men and took the women and children captive. Sound familiar, don't it? Go ahead.
Then builded they the city of David with the great and strong wall, and with the mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them.
They building what they call those what they call them when they got them in different different countries. Embassy. I can't.
You said it right.
There you go. They building towers in Israel. Go ahead.
And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
Now, when they say a sinful nation, always remember this, y'all. Heathens cannot be sinful. They don't have the law. Okay. So when they say a sinful nation, that's talking about wicked Israelites. So those are they put within those towers Israelites that were with them, people they could trust. You know what I'm saying? Your not your Uncle Tom's, but your Samuel L. Jacksons from Django Unchained. I ain't never seen that movie. My kids don't know what I'm talking about. Children don't know. Go ahead.
They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
They was killing Israelites. So Israelites were killing Israelites. Go ahead. But the wicked was killing the righteous. Go ahead.
Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
So Israel was desolate. It was heathens inhabiting there. Go ahead.
Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased.
See that? So where you at? Like 30?
40.
Oh yeah, you can stop right there. So with that, what y'all see here is, I'm sorry, read verse 38 again.
Verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
So if y'all notice, they built a stronghold against the sanctuary. So as that the sanctuary is very important, right? Why was it so important to take down the sanctuary? Like that's where Antiochus went after he made war against Ptolemy, which I was meant to talk about before we skip down. Ptolemy was the king of Egypt at the time. Antiochus made war against him. Then he went into Israel. What what was so important about the sanctuary that he walked so proudly in it and tore it down? You will hear that all the time. Let's see. Jump down to verse now again for verse 41.
Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
So now he chooses to change laws. Remember when they said he was going to change laws? Go ahead.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
So a lot of Israelites was okay with him, with what he wanted, them to be one people. When y'all hear that one nation under God, all that stuff, that's the heathen saying we all are one people. We're not like them. So a lot of Israelites were saying, okay, yeah, we'll do it. Go ahead.
For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
So he said, y'all keeping our laws now, y'all gonna forsake your laws. No more keeping the Sabbath. He said basically anything that God will have you do, you won't do no more. And it is not a choice. Read on.
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
So y'all see that again? He said pollute the sanctuary and sacrifice swine in it. So there go that word sanctuary again. Read on.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Just lewd behavior, wickedness. He said, make your children uncircumcised. What that means, Grayson, is don't teach them the law. Don't give them the physical circumcision either. If y'all think it's by coincidence, it's not. If y'all think it's by coincidence, it's not. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's always just a little lower, IT. Can you bring it? It won't go no lower. Mm. That ain't bad. But those ain't sounds of war, man. That's what? It's a different stream. All right then. I'll work with it. Where we at, Doc?
Verse 50. Let me hit it. Verse 50. Verse 50. And whosoever will not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
So it said, the scriptures say, Antiochus proclaimed that whosoever would not do according, talking about Israel, to the new laws, them they will kill. How would that make you feel? Knowing that if you keep God's laws, you're going to be put to death. That's when it's time to see if you really are Israelite at heart, or if you just won by name. So, read on. You can read on up.
Ah, my bad. Paying attention to the stream. Verse 51. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
So he got people over them watching them, making sure they do what he said. Go ahead.
Then many other people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor.
So the righteous Israelites, they like, nah, we not finna break our commandments. We gonna they fled, they ran away and found places where they could keep God's commandments in secret, away from them. Go ahead.
Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of the desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side,
They go ahead.
and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire.
So they burnt God's laws. They burnt the Bibles up. Go ahead.
And wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put them to death.
So if you was found with the law, if you had the scriptures, the Bible with you, they put you to death. Go ahead.
Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
So they sacrificed idol worship. They did idol worship upon the altar of God. Okay. Now, why is it so important to defile the temple and disconnect Israel from it, and keeping our customs and commandment? Why is that? Why would they so hell bent on that? Why they keep attacking the sanctuary? Go ahead. That's a good answer. Go ahead. Okay. Okay. Good answers. I'm gonna break it down to y'all. Go to 1 Kings 3:1. Good answer. And you're right. It's a lot of treasures. It was a lot of treasures in the sanctuary.
For the book of 1 Kings, chapter 3, verse 1. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David, until he had made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about.
So Solomon built the house of the Lord. Okay. So the house of the Lord is where Israel sacrificed. Okay. Read it one more time for me out to get to it.
And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David, until he had made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about.
So that's the house of the Lord. Verse 2.
Only the people sacrificed in high places, because there was no house built unto the name of the Lord until those days.
So you see that? That's where they sacrificed. At the time, Solomon hadn't finished the house yet, so people sacrificed in high places. But once Solomon finished the house of the Lord, that's where people sacrificed. Okay? When you sacrifice to God, what are you doing? You're repenting, you're praying, you're giving your first fruits. It's alms. Okay? When you give to God, he takes care of you. Okay, go ahead, Doc.
Verse 3. And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon that altar.
So that's where you did the sacrifices. Now go to Ezekiel 41 and 21.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 41, verse 21. Verse 21. And the little chambers, Slack, 41 and 21. The posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other.
I'll go ahead.
The altar of wood was 3 cubits high, and the length thereof 2 cubits, and the corners thereof, and the length thereof, and the walls thereof were of wood. And he said unto me, This.
You can stop right there. Oh, read that part.
This is the table that is before the Lord.
So it's the house of the Lord. So the temple is the sanctuary. Okay? The temple, that is the house of the Lord. Okay? Read verse 21 again. I want to get this part.
The posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other.
So that's the temple. The sanctuary and temple, same thing. Okay? Now Matthew 21 and 13.
Matthew chapter 21, verse 13. And said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves.
So what is Christ referring to? He said, My house is a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. Let's see. Go to Isaiah 56 and verse 7.
Isaiah chapter 56, verse 7. Even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar. For my house shall be called the house of prayer for all people.
So it's the house of prayer, it's the temple, it's the sanctuary. That's where you made sacrifices. So simply put, when they defiled the sanctuary, when they destroyed it, they was destroying our connection to God, as you said. That's that was how, when that sanctuary was gone, that was our disconnect from God. It was like a portal. Okay. Now, let's get back to it. First Maccabees 2 and 1. So, of course, y'all know that eventually, what happens when a people is oppressed? Eventually, somebody rise up, don't they? We've seen it here. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, my boy Nat Turner. Got many great leaders. People, when oppression hits, eventually somebody rise up. NWA. Anybody? No. Just saying. They said, they had their part. So it's no different in our past. But the difference is, with all the people I just named, there's those who rose up with the fear of the Lord in them, the fear of God. This is where one of our greatest ancestors come in at. Mighty man. They had that spirit. Side note, I wanted to say this. I heard somebody talk about, they was talking about Mike Tyson. Go ahead and give Mike Tyson some flowers real quick. And, people are really amazed at the kind of person that Mike Tyson is. Like, he's different. He built different. He look at life different. The man had plays with pet tigers, and he sit outside playing with them. These full-grown tigers, 300-pound tigers. He out here side wrestling with them. So it's and he went to prison. He went to prison and he enjoyed himself. He had a good time. So yeah, I know. But everybody be so amazed at just how different this dude is. But the way I look at it is Mike Tyson, God, remember, God gives gift to all Israelites, and everybody has a different gift. I always look at Mike Tyson like, you know what? That brother has a spirit, a fearless spirit. It's very strong in him. He doesn't see things the way other people see him. He lacks that sense of fear. And it could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you use it. But he used it for boxing. Not afraid of anybody. Not afraid. If you can play with a full grown tiger, you definitely got some kind of spirit, some manful spirit. But this is goes back. If you go back to Mattathias, who we're going to talk about now, he had that spirit, but he had it in the righteous way. When they was killing us, it takes a lot to say. Well, let's get into it. Let's get through the scriptures. Go ahead, Doc.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan, called Caddis, Simon, called Thessi, Judas, who was called Maccabees, Eleazar, called Averin, and Jonathan, whose surname was Ephius. And when he had saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judea and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers.
See that talking about that sanctuary again. But Mattathias is lamenting. He said, "Woe is me." He says, "Does that mean destruction?" When you say that, that means you in sorrow. You say, especially if you say it to yourself. To see his people, to see his people downtrodden, and his sanctuary, the holy sanctuary of Jerusalem, the holy city, desolate, destroyed, and angered, and made him sorrowful. Read on.
Verse 8. Her temple is become as a man without glory.
Y'all know what a man without glory is? What is the whole duty of man? Exactly. So a man without glory is what? A man without a country. A man with no glory is a man with nothing. So put it lightly, it's a bum. Pitiful. A weak man. Go ahead.
Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity.
That's what Caden was talking about. Glorious vessels. Go ahead.
Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy.
Okay, so right there. I was gonna get 1 Kings 2, but we know what that's talking about. So her temple is as a man without no law. Her streets, Israel just in a bad place. And that Mattathias is seeing this. And then if you notice, it named his sons that he had. Those sons are very important because those are sons that he taught. He left an example to. Go to chapter 2. Oh, we in chapter 2. Go to verse 12.
Verse 12. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore.
So every time, like we read a couple of days ago, every time we was in a bad place, true Israelites knew we had to repent. If we can't get to the sanctuary gone, how do we repent to God? You gotta fast, mourn, put on sackcloth, put yourself in a lower state. Let God know, hey, we sorry. Why, whatever reason you doing this for, we sorry. But Mattathias sound like a righteous man. So it's safe to say that he didn't sin against God. But yet here he is in the trenches. Because that's what a righteous man knows. If one of us falls, we all fall in Israel. So my sins of my ancestors are my sins. Sins of my forefathers are my sins. I am my brother's keeper, so his sins are mine. Because if I know about him. So that's what he was. That's why he will put on sackcloth. That's why he repented. Go ahead, Doc.
Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shall thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
He basically told him to come sell your soul to the devil. He said, if you, because he remember, he said you're a great man. So he said, people, what he's telling them is people are going to follow you. Israelites are going to follow you when you do something. You're a great example. He said, come and keep the king's commandment. And when you do that, we're gonna give you great riches. You're gonna be good in this land as long as King Antiochus, long as this empire stands, you gonna stand. See what Mattathias said. Read on.
Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice.
He spoke with pride. He spoke like a lion. Go ahead.
And my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
He said, to hell with that. He said, though all the other nations may have lost their way, in my house, we serve God. Go ahead.
God forbid that we shall forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
He told him straight up, we ain't doing that. You can go on somewhere with it. So Mattathias refuses to sin against God. So get Joshua 24 and 15. I just want 15 out.
Joshua chapter 24, verse 15.
This is what he hit him with. Wake up, G. Wake up.
And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
That's what he told him. He said, me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. Y'all know if you're not Lamar, if you're not serving God, who are you serving? Because everything else ain't God, right? Everything else idolatry. So that would say, choose ye this day whom you gonna serve. Go back to First Maccabees 2 and 23.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 23.
Now it's always one bozo that decide that you ever give a speech or say something that makes sense, and you always got the class clown that want to step and say and make everybody laugh after you done said some smart stuff. That was you. IT said that was him. Well, it's like just as then, there's always somebody that's got to make that's got to do something off out of pocket. Let's go ahead and get it.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment.
So after Matthias said what he said, that powerful speech, a Jew walked up, one of his people, and he said he gonna go ahead and sacrifice. He gonna sacrifice to the king. Go ahead, Doc.
Which thing when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal.
Say now he said when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal. That means that's the spirit of God came over him, that Holy Spirit. Go ahead.
And his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment.
He was angry. Remember, a wise man hate oppression. And that was an oppressing thing for that Jew to do that. It shows a lack of understanding. Huge lack. So, read on.
Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
So remember, say he could forbear to show his anger, and he couldn't hold it back. So he ran up and killed that Jew on the altar. Was that a sin to kill that Jew? Let's see. Okay, that's a good answer. That's the right answer. Go to Deuteronomy 13 and 6. When it comes to God's laws, they come first, right?
Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 6.
I want 6 through 9.
If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thy own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely, of the gods of the people, which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth.
So it's what this scripture is saying, y'all, is if someone entices you or wants to serve a Jew, if a Jew wants to serve other gods, go ahead.
Verse 8, thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shalt thy eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him, but thou shalt surely kill him.
See, that's the commandment that Matthias kept. If your brother or sister, or anybody close to kin, anybody you know, decide they want to sin, and this was how they did it. This Old Testament. Matthias kept the commandment to kill them, slay them on the altar, slay them, and don't have no pity on them. Go ahead.
Thy hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people.
See that? So Matthias is keeping a commandment. Now go back to 1 Maccabees 2 and 27.
1 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 27. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
He said, if anybody refuses, if you who is zealous of the law, meaning you still keeping God's law, you fear the Lord. He was saying, come and follow us. Go ahead.
So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
So they left. They fled into the mountains. They left all their possessions in the city. Go ahead.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because affliction increased sore upon them. And when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were going down into the secret places in the wilderness.
So Matthias inspired other people to still keep God's laws. They fled. They went to keep God's laws in secret places. But the word reached the king about these people these Jews that were still keeping God's laws and were trying to hide. They just go into hiding. Let's see what he did. Go ahead.
They pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day.
So this is big. So they pursued after those Jews that were hiding. and they made war against them on the Sabbath day. That's strategic. Okay? On the Sabbath, what are we supposed to be doing? Resting. That's our day of rest, right? So naturally, what do you think those Jews did? Let's see. Read on.
And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live.
They said, look, they told the Jews, look, we'll let y'all live, y'all, today. It's a Sabbath. So we'll let y'all live today if y'all come and do the commandment of the king. Read on.
But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day.
They said we not breaking the Sabbath day. Read on.
So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit, they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully.
So they were killed. They said, let us die, because they wasn't about to profane the Sabbath. They didn't want to fight on the Sabbath. So they allowed themselves to be killed. Go ahead.
So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
That's 1,000 people they killed. The wives, children, and the cattle. Verse 39.
Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore.
So when Mattathias had received word that this had happened, he mourned for his people. He mourned for his people. Now go down to verse 43.
Verse 43. Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a state unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
So, after Mattathias heard of what happened to the Jews that were hiding, Mattathias decided they weren't going to die like that. They're going to fight. And other Jews joined themselves to Mattathias and his brothers, his people. And the army of Israel grew. And they basically went from city to city, destroying wicked men. Go ahead.
When Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands.
So they was basically out casting out sin. They circumcised the children that was uncircumcised. They went round about, meaning traveling around, and they were killing any Israelites that did not want to keep God's commandments. Okay, they were destroying wicked altars. They started a movement, and other Israelites was hearing about this, and they was loving it. It was like they made them stand up. Go ahead.
So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph.
So they took down kings, and they didn't let the sinners triumph. When you hear that word sinner, they're talking about their own people. Go ahead, 49.
When the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now have pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation.
So let's just know this is going on for years. This is their life. This is what they spent their life doing. Restoring Israel. They spent their lives. So it comes to a point where Mattathias is about to die. That's how long they've been doing it. If you're going to keep reading, see how old he was. But look at what he said to his sons before he died. Go ahead.
Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers.
Ain't that what we do? That be zealous of the law and give your life for the covenant of the Father. They were living in a time of war. So that meant two things, right? It meant keep when we started here, when we started, keep it going. I say it to you. Now we might have to fight one day. But what I say to you, if I'm saying to you, you fight, you work for the covenant of God, right? Meaning that's your whole life's work is to build up the kingdom of Israel. You may have jobs, you may have little side things you do, but your main purpose is the servitude of God's kingdom. That's what he was telling us. Keep fighting spiritually and physically. Go ahead.
Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall you receive great honor and an everlasting name.
So now he said, call to this is how you remain strong in God's cut law. Remember what Romans 15:4 says? Okay. You got to call to remember the acts of our forefathers. Moses. Well, he finna go down the list. Go ahead.
Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation? And it was imputed unto him for righteousness.
See, he brought up Abraham. Go ahead.
Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt.
He said Joseph, our forefather Joseph, he said when he was taken, he was brought into captivity. He kept the commandments. Go ahead.
Phineas, our father, and being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood.
Go ahead.
Jesus, fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel.
So it said Jesus says Jesus fulfilling the word was made a judge in Israel. So what Jesus is this talking about? Let's see. Real quick, we're gonna come back. Go to Joshua 1, and I want verse 1 through 2. Let's see what Jesus is talking about.
Joshua chapter 1, verse 1. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua.
So, after the death of Moses, the Lord, remember Moses was the leader of Israel, right? Of the Hebrews. He the one brought them out of Egypt. After his death, there had to be a new successor. Go ahead.
Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses, minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise and go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them,
So,
even to the children of Israel.
Right. So that Jesus is talking about Joshua. Joshua led the people after Moses. That's why the scriptures say Jesus fulfilling the word was made a judge in Israel. Okay? So that's talking about Joshua. All right, let's go back to where we was at. What verse was you at? I remember
56.
Yeah. Now we actually good there then. So, I don't know. Go ahead, 56.
Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received a heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, Mishael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms.
So that's so Mattathias left his son with those words. He prophesied, he told them, he reminded them of all the things our ancestors have did and how the Most High saved them. Daniel in the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in the fire, David, all the great things they faced. He let them know they have always been delivered from that. So he said, he said, my sons, remember that for yourselves as well, that God will not let anyone overcome you as long as you serve him. So now, Let's get verse chapter 3 and let's get verse 1. Yeah, Maccabees 1, first Maccabees 3 and 1.
Book of First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 1. Then his son Judas, called Maccabees, rose up in his stead.
So Judah Maccabees, who was the leader after Mattathias died, okay, he became the leader amongst his brothers. Go ahead.
And all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people great honor, and put on the breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with the sword. In his acts he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey.
So he was a mighty man. After his father, he came and he was going war in war. He was like a lion. He was slaying the wicked. He was leading. He was keeping his father's name strong. But he was mostly the word of God was keeping him and his brothers and those his father's partners that was joined to him. Everybody, they was following him. They followed him to battle. Go ahead.
For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people.
He burnt up people that vexed his people. Go ahead.
Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hands.
So people, when they start hearing about him, they were scared of him. They were scared because he clearly had God on his side, and there was nobody. Like he was winning wars. He was conquering people. He was becoming famous. Go ahead, verse 7.
He grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts.
So kings at that time, remember, they were in rulership. They were scared of him. They was grieved. And Jacob, when they heard about him, they like, yeah. They like, okay. They was proud of him. And when you proud of a brother, you believe in his cause, right? So they start standing up. Go ahead.
And his memorial is blessed forever.
Memorial blessed forever. Now, so Judah Maccabee was valiant and carried on after his father, and as the leader fought against the wicked and the heathen. Jump down to verse 25 out.
Verse 25. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and all exceeding great dread, to fall upon the nations round about them.
So people, the nations round about them that was hearing about them, they was fearful of him. Go ahead.
Insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. Now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army.
So now word is reaching King Antiochus about this. And he is so afraid that he started to recruit bigger armies. That's how mighty they was. Our numbers was never as great as the people that we was going up against. So for them to get scared and start recruiting more people, it lets you know that God's power was moving with them. Okay? It lets you know that God's power was moving with them. So, you know how in movies, when a team of outlaws become a problem, they normally, once a team of outlaws become a problem, they normally have to recruit special forces, right? Eventually, because that's what the mechanism was for them, for the heathens, they were outlaws. And then they wasn't keeping their laws, was they? So and now Antiochus is getting desperate. So he needs some special forces. An assassin. Somebody who can put an end to this, right? We're gonna talk about that in a minute. Get verse 42 out.
First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 42. Now, when Judas and his brethren saw that the miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them,
Go ahead.
they said one to another, let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary.
So they said, yes, the king has sought to kill our people, but we're gonna continue to fight for them. Unless while his decree is out to kill our people, we're gonna continue to build our people up. And then what we do, we live in a nation that wants to destroy our people, but we still build our people up. Now this was ours is spiritual. This is physical. Go ahead.
Then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion.
So so they said so they was all gathered together, they was on one accord, and they was gonna pray and ask for mercy. Go ahead.
Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha over against Jerusalem. For in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes.
So they fasted and prayed. However many Jews he had, they all fasted and prayed for a success against their enemies who sought to destroy them. Go ahead.
And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Go ahead.
They brought also the priest's garments, and the first fruits, and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profane, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help?
Out here they praying. They saying our enemies are great. How can we stand against them, God, if we don't have you? Remember they fasting right now. They lamenting. Go ahead.
Then sounded they with the trumpets, and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, and over hundreds, and over fifties, and over tens. But as for such as were building houses, or had been betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return every man to his own house according to the law.
So he was keeping the law, but he was readying other men for war. He was readying everybody for war. But those that were gardeners, that had families, those that just married, he let them go home. He said, y'all go to y'all place. But those that can fight, those are the ones that's gonna be here ready to fight. Go ahead.
So the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus. And Judas said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it's better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary.
He said it's better for us to die. He said, arm yourselves and be ready. Because tomorrow we going to war. He said it's better for us to die in battle than to behold the destruction of our people. Look at what he said next. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do.
He said, whatever God's will is, that's what will be done. So it's saying, he said we may die, but we're going to fight. We're going to fight for our land. We're going to fight for our sanctuary. We're not going to cower, not running. That's what he told them. We're not gonna stand by idly and watch our people suffer. So Maccabee was the real one. Go to chapter 7. So Judas and his army ready to fight for Israel and the sanctuary. So chapter 7 and verse 26. So what I wanted to touch on, they got the sanctuary, right? He said, "Let us." He said they seek to destroy our sanctuary. We're gonna get to that. 7 verse 26.
First Maccabees chapter 7, verse 26. Then the king sent Nicanor, one of his honorable princes.
So this is when they becoming a problem. So now the king sends Nicanor. Go ahead. And Nicanor, well, we're gonna see what it says. Go ahead, Doc.
A man that bare deadly hate unto Israel, with commandment to destroy the people.
So Nicanor had deadly hate towards Israel. So he's like a radical. He don't mess with Israel. He don't like them. Okay? Go ahead.
So Nicanor came to Jerusalem with a great force, and sent unto Judas and his brethren deceitfully with friendly words.
So Nicanor came amongst Judah, Judah Maccabee. He came to him with deceitful word. He came like he was peaceful. Like, I just want to talk. I know you've been out. Yeah, I know you're used to fighting. That's not what I'm here for. See, I came here just to talk with you. Go ahead. But
Let
it,
there
but it was
be
deceitful. Go ahead. Doc.
let there be no battle between me and you. I will come with a few men that I may see you in peace.
So he said, I'm gonna come with a few men. I'm gonna see you in peace. There's no battle between us. Go ahead.
He came therefore to Judas, and they saluted one another peaceably. Howbeit, the enemies were prepared to take away Judas by violence.
So he lied. They was ready to take him away by violence. Look what happened with Judas. Go ahead.
Which thing after it was known to Judas, to wit that he came unto him with deceit. He was so afraid of him and would see his face no more.
So the Most High let Judas know that he's deceiving you. And Judas didn't meet with him anymore. Go ahead.
Nicanor also, when he saw that his counsel was discovered, went out to fight against Judas besides Captain Nar, where there were slain of Nicanor's side about 5,000 men, and the rest fled into the city of David. After this went Nicanor up to Mount Sion, and there came out of the sanctuary certain of the priests, certain of the elders of the people.
So at this point, read verse 33 one more time.
After this went Nicanor up to Mount Sion.
So Nicanor went up to Mount Sion. Go ahead.
And there came out of the sanctuary certain of the priests and certain of the elders of the people to salute him peaceably and to show him the burnt sacrifice that was offered for the king.
So Nicanor went to the sanctuary. So by this point, the Israelites got the sanctuary back. Okay? So Nicanor went to the sanctuary and he was met with elders who were in the sanctuary. And they came to him peaceably. Go ahead.
But he mocked them and laughed at them and abused them shamefully and spake proudly.
But he didn't treat them with the same respect. Go ahead.
And sware his wrath, saying, unless Judas and his host be now delivered into my hands, if ever I come again in safety, I will burn up this house. And with that, he went out in a great rage.
So remember, 5,000 of his men had been killed. So he was not in any position to attack them. But he said, if I come, when he came to the sanctuary, they met him peacefully. These are the priests. These are the men that Judah Maccabee put in the sanctuary to keep it. Okay? So they got it back, and I'm gonna show y'all where they got it back. He told them, he mocked them. He didn't take them they kindness. He said, if I come back here, if y'all don't bring me deliver Judah Maccabee to me, when I come back here, I'm gonna destroy this place. That's what he told them. He was proud, right? But look at what the elders did. Go ahead.
Then the priest entered in and stood before the altar and the temple, weeping and saying, Thou, O Lord, didst choose this house to be called by thy name, and to be a house of prayer and petition for thy people.
That's how y'all know they got it back. Because as soon as he said that, they went in there and they started praying. They said, God, you said this is your house. This is a house of prayer. Okay, let's see. Let's go to when they got the sanctuary back. Go to chapter 4, verse 35. First Maccabees 4 and 35.
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 35. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliest of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers. And having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea.
So Elisha, he's seen how mighty Judah's army was and how they was so ready. They were just ready to live or die. He fled. His men fled. They were afraid. He had to go get recruitment because they was out there getting their butts whooped. Go ahead.
Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
So Judas said, Look, our enemies, they running. Now's our chance to take back the sanctuary. Let's go and get it and clean it and get it back, restore it back to its natural order. Go ahead, Doc.
Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burnt up and shrubs growing in the courts as in the forest or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven.
So when they found the condition of their sanctuary destroyed, they cried. They cried unto God. Go ahead.
Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
See that? So Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that was in the fortress until the sanctuary was cleansed. So while while they clean the sanctuary, they're still fighting a war. Do y'all know why they knew they could do that? Well, let's read on. Keep going.
So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law.
So he put the priests in there. They the ones that had to clean the sanctuary. Go ahead.
Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, as it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down.
So they rebuilt the sanctuary. Go ahead.
And laid up the stones in the mount of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with it. And they took whole stones according to the law, and built the new altar according to the former.
So they restored it. The reason that they were still fighting, they was restoring and still fighting because they had their sanctuary back. That was a win. They had that connection with God back, meaning they finna be stronger now than ever. This is a reason to celebrate. They got the sanctuary being cleansed while they still fighting the war. Because it's like, I know y'all play our little games. It's like they done conquered a whole new level. They made it to a whole new level. They in a good place. Now chapter 7 and verse 38.
First Maccabees chapter 7, verse 38. Be avenged of this man and his host, and let them fall by the sword. Remember their blasphemies, and suffer them not to continue any longer.
So that's Maccabees talking to his men. He said, remember what these men have done to us, now people, and kill every last one of them. Go ahead.
So Nicanor went out of Jerusalem and pitched his tent in Bethanorum, where an host out of Syria met him. But Judas pitched in Adasa with 3,000 men, and there he prayed, saying, O Lord, when they that were sent from the king of the Assyrians blasphemed, thine angel went out and smote 185,000 of them.
Y'all see that? Did y'all catch that? Read it again.
O Lord, when they that went when they that were sent from the king of Assyrians blasphemed, thy angel went out and smote 185,000 of them.
Y'all see, that's the difference between us and other nations. It was never us. It was an angel of war that God sent out that was fighting those battles, which means our enemies never stood a chance. And Judah Maccabee being righteous, he didn't take that glory. He asked. He knew what he was up against. He asked God to send the angel. Read the next verse.
Even so, destroy thou this host before us this day, that the rest may know that he has spoken blasphemously against thy sanctuary, and judge thy him according to his wickedness.
Judah Maccabee asked God to send the angel of destruction, the angel of war, to destroy Nicanor for all his sins against Israel. He didn't say it was on him. It was always God. Go ahead.
So the 13th day of the month Adar, the host joined battle, but Nicanor's host was discomfited, and he himself was first slain in the battle.
So Nicanor was the first one killed in battle once they engaged in war with him. He was the first one destroyed. That's how you know it was never Nicanor versus Judah. Nicanor was going up against the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Go ahead.
Now when Nicanor's host saw that he was slain, they cast away their weapons and fled.
So when Nicanor saw that his host, when Nicanor's host saw that he was killed, they all took off running. Go ahead.
Then they pursued after them a day's journey from Adasa unto Gazarah.
Y'all remember what Judah Maccabee told them? He said, kill every last one of them. So even though they ran, the Jews, our people didn't let them get away. They chased after them for 2 days and killed them. They kept killing them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Whereupon they came forth out of all the towns of Judea round about, and closed them in, so that they turning back upon them that pursued them were all slain with the sword, and not one of them was left.
None of them was left. Go ahead, Doc.
Afterwards, they took the spoils and the prey, and smote off Nicanor's head and his right hand, which he stretched out so proudly.
So Nicanor stretched his hand out proudly against Israel. So Israel cut off his head and his right hand. Go ahead.
And brought them away and hanged them up towards Jerusalem.
That's how our people it was rough. We was tough back then. They cut his hand off in his head and they held him up towards Jerusalem. They posted him up towards Jerusalem as a sign. Go ahead.
For this cause the people rejoiced greatly, and they kept that day a day of great gladness. Moreover, they ordained to keep yearly this day, being the 13th of Adar.
So that they ordained that this is a celebration. We're going to keep this day yearly. That's the destruction of Nicanor. Go ahead.
Thus, the land of Judea was in rest a little while.
Thus, the land of Judea was in rest a little while. So the destruction of Nicanor is a celebration of how we got our temple back. Okay? How the heathen sought to destroy us. We got our temple back. We got our connection with God back. Okay? So that's why we celebrate. That's why we keep it. It was ordained by our ancestors. And we will always remember how we fought for our sanctuary, how we fought for our temple, and we got it back. And we restored Israel's. Because if you remember, as everything we went over and read, what's something you noticed? Israelites were standing up all throughout, hearing of the fame of Mattathias, hearing of the fame of his sons, and they were all fighting back against the heathens, and they were all they all came back to his laws. Getting that sanctuary back was the biggest triumph because that's the link that was the link between us and God at the time. So even though they were still at war even after this was a huge triumph. It meant we were heading in a better direction from being from our brothers and sisters going earlier on and decided to join with the heathens to us coming back to the law. So all praises to the Most High God. That was the destruction of Nicanor and the need for the temple. All praise to the Most High God once again, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We own a new streaming service, so however you do it, go ahead, IT, and do what you do.
Shout out Tiffany Gordon. She said Shabbat Shalom and all praise to the Most High in Christ for allowing us to see another one.
All praises to the Most High, sis.
Shout out Trees of Righteousness, Israelites. They said Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shout out MJ. He said Shalom. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath, MJ.
Shout out Jasmine Brooks. She said Shalom, Most High in Christ be with you all. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Shout out Katie Love. She said Shalom, family. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath. All right, all praise to the Most High God. Once again, let's get the memorial. Let's get that.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 6. Now, when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this, that this woman hath done, be told for a memorial of her.
It's the memorial of Mary Magdalene, who repented from great sins. She had a lot of sin on her. She repented. She believed Christ. She loved Christ so much that before he died, she comforted him. She put the oils on him to comfort him. Them oils, them essential oils, is oils they very powerful. We've been disconnected so much from our heritage, we don't understand even how our skin works. They can be soothing even to the spirit. And Christ needed that. She understood that. So Christ said, because she loved me, and when you love Christ, what else do you love? You love God, you love the law. She loved Christ. So Christ said, forever remember her memorial. Whenever this word go out, bring out that memorial. So once again, all praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, the God of my house, the God of yours. I say this to all Israel out there, all over the world. Keep fighting the good fight. Don't give up. Our salvation is nearer than when we had believed, than when we knew before. It's time to return to God's laws. Come out of sleep. Wake up. Don't give up. Those that are currently fighting, don't give up. Times may get hard, may look a little bleak, but keep God's commandments and keep them with the faith of Christ as well. Keep them with love. So again, all praises to the Most High. And with that, I say shalom.